Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video, we're going to talk Games Workshop games that have been discontinued. And I want to talk about 8 particular games that I'd really love to see come back. Over the years, we've definitely seen a bunch of fan favourite games, from Blood Bowl to other versions of Necromunda and many other games, Warhammer Quest as well, and even a remade Hero Quest come out, albeit the Hero Quest was not done by Games Workshop and was a remake by someone else, but we've still seen that game come back out. I really like that we're starting to see all these games coming back out, and we're obviously going to see Warhammer the Old World coming out soon, and Horus Heresy getting a second release for a new edition. Seeing all these games get new miniatures, get some love, is really making me hope that we are going to see some of these other games I'm going to mention in the list come back out in some variety, in some way, at some point. And so we're going to go through a list of 8 discontinued games that Games Workshop should totally bring back. If nothing, it's proven with the success of things like Necromunda, Adeptus Titanicus, and even Blood Bowl, probably more than any others, that they do have room for having different games. There are so many different styles of games and different styles of gamer out in the world there now, that there is a game out there for everyone, and Games Workshop have their, hands in a lot of different styles of games. We have, obviously, the mass battle games like Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Warhammer 40k, and Warhammer 30k to an extent as well. We've got those middle-sized games like Middle-earth strategy battle game. We've got skirmish-style games like Warcry and Kill Team. And then we've got more in-depth narrative games like Necromunda, and more fun tabletop games like Blood Bowl, and even card-based games, which are much more sort of intrinsic strategy-style games like Underworlds. And so for me, I think there's a lot of range to do a bunch of different games from Games Workshop, and they really shouldn't limit themselves to just what they've currently got on their roster. So we're going to talk about 8 discontinued games I'd like to see. So let us know what games you'd love to see Games Workshop bring back that they haven't already. Obviously, we already know that Old World is coming back, so that's not going to be on the list. That would certainly be my number 1 though, because I love Warhammer Fantasy, and we hope to get some Warhammer Fantasy content on the channel very soon for people. With that said, let's get cracking on. And number 1, kicking off the list, Mordheim. For me, this is a fantastic game. I do currently still play Mordheim, and we may think about getting a Mordheim campaign running on the channel at some point soon. It's a really fun game, really enabling you to customize some miniatures, and the old miniatures for it as well looked amazing back in the day. Absolutely loved it. But this was effectively how Warcry is to Age of Sigmar now Mordheim was to Warhammer Fantasy. It was a skirmish-style game based in a sort of set point within the setting in the city of Mordheim, the city of the damned. Effectively, a bunch of meteorites had come down of Warpstone from Morsleb, and people were trying to gather that stuff. Mordheim is really cool. It was fun. It had good character progression. It, at times, was pretty balanced. It did have some very unbalanced parts to the game. I mean, no game is perfect, so scratch that aside, but I really enjoyed it. It was heavy terrain, heavy on character, heavy on building your warband, creating a story, and playing some nice quick fun games with your friends. A really good game that I would really love to see brought back by GW. If we do see Old World come out sometime soon and they want to make an expansion of that, much like we've got Adeptus Titanicus representing Warhammer 30k, I would love to see Mordheim get a remake from Warhammer the Old World and really explore that setting. Number 2, War of the Ring. Now, I strongly believe this is the best mass battle game that Games Workshop have ever made. For me, this was just everything. It had so many good things going for it. I love the circular bases on square movement trays. I am a strong believer that Warhammer the Old World definitely should have gone down this route, putting round bases into the square bases as a slot, so that models were usable in both that game and Age of Sigmar, and also usable and better looking for skirmish-style games like Mordheim. But they didn't go down this route, but we've seen other games take on this flavour. We've seen, obviously, these circle bases on squares in things like Conquest Last Argument of Kings and on A Song of Ice and Fire as well. But just the mechanics of this game. First of all, seeing mass battles in Lord of the Rings was really great. Obviously, the general game is based as a small to medium style skirmish game. You can do larger battles in Middle-earth strategy battle game and in the old Lord of the Rings strategy battle game or Hobbit games as well. But this definitely took them to the next level, made them much more easier to do, and definitely was just a really good mass battle game. I really loved how all the mechanics in this game worked. I would love to see it remade. I love being able to play the scenes. I remember reading the White Dwarf, the battle for Minas Tirith was such a cool battle to see on the tabletop with the War of the Ring rules. That was the one they used to really sort of show what this game could do. It was great. It had a lot going for it. Really love to see that back. Number 3, Lost Patrol, and this one may seem a little bit out there. I really did like the game Lost Patrol. I thought this one was one of the most challenging one of the board games that Games Workshop ever brought out, especially when they were doing all those board games. We got, obviously, a lot of others. We got the Gangs of Cormorant, we got the I can't remember the name, Gore Chosen, the Cornate one for Age of Sigmar, and we got a lot of other sort of box games around this time, but I really did like Lost Patrol. I thought it was a really challenging game. There was so much fun. It had great replayability. If they were to bring out any of the box games again, I'd love to see an updated version of Lost Patrol. Bring, Gene Stealers. You've got Gene Stealer Cultists. You could definitely mix it up and make a lot more expansions for a game like this now. You could use, instead of, using Scouts, use something more newer. You could use a squad of Reavers for your Space Marines now, or even use Catachans for it. Could be really cool. But this was a fun box game. I really enjoyed it. I don't remember anyone in my local GW store ever actually finishing the game. It was challenging, and you would get so close, and then the Broodlord would just absolutely murder you. But yeah, ton of fun. This was a great game. Love to see it come back. Out of all the box games, this is the one I enjoyed the most during that sort of time, or when they were releasing box game after box game. If anyone has a copy of this around, I don't know what happened to mine. I'd love to get a copy of this. Number 4, Battlefleet Gothic. Now, this is definitely a game I want to see. Obviously, there's been computer games that have come out for Battlefleet Gothic recently, and they were all really well received. But what Battlefleet Gothic is, it's effectively space-bound warfare with a bunch of starships for a bunch of different races in Warhammer 40k. This was really cool. I really do want to see this game back. I think it's a unique sort of aesthetic. Definitely, this sort of game has a lot of popularity. You can look at things like X-Wing and other variations that definitely play this sort of style. I can't remember the name of the other style of X-Wing game. There's another one, isn't there? I think. But for me, this is just really cool. I'd love to see this. I think we've got a lot more lore and stuff like that, where we can build different ships and have much more interesting kits. I think the size of this game would definitely probably be upscaled a little bit. Maybe will we see this game more to something of the scale of Titanicus, seeing a few less models on the table, but seeing larger, more customizable miniatures perhaps. Could be an interesting take on the game, or maybe it stays the same. But I think we've got Aeronautica Imperialis for that sort of game. I think we could definitely sort of up the scale a little bit just to give us a little bit of conversion or customization options for the game. Definitely could be an interesting option for it. But what would you like to see in a Battlefleet Gothic remake? Would you like to see it the same scale? Would you like to see it upped a little bit so we could get a little bit more customization in our miniatures for it? Number 5, continuing on with that sort of ship-based combat idea, Man-O-War. This was Warhammer Fantasy's version, I guess, sea-bound combat with a bunch of different miniatures. And of course, we saw a sort of resurgence in a box-style game called Dreadfleet later. I've got a box set of Dreadfleet. If people would love to see the Dreadfleet campaign played on channel, let us know down in the comments below. I'd love to get it out, paint it up, and put it out there. I've still got it, but Man-O-War would be really interesting. I think we don't need this to be for Warhammer Old One anymore. I'd love to see this for Age of Sigmar. Imagine all the weird and wondrous ships we could get in that sort of game. And much like Battlefleet Gothic, I think making a larger scale game, something, more akin to the Adeptus Titanicus scale, would be definitely something really cool to see for a game like Man-O-War. Have, 5 or 6 ships aside with some crew on them, able to customize them would be really, really cool. This would definitely be a really interesting game to sort of play. What do you all think of Man-O-War? Did you enjoy it? Did you ever get a chance to really play it? I don't have much of a memory of Man-O-War. I really only played it when I was very little with my dad. And I mostly have a memory of Dreadfleet, which I hear is sort of the successor, but also sort of not. It was ship-bound combat in Warhammer Fantasy. That's pretty much all there is to it, and that was the similarities. But I'd love to see Man-O-War. I think in Age of Sigmar, this has a lot of potential to be a really interesting side game. Number 6, Space Hulk, or indeed Space Crusade. I did talk about this at the start of the video, how we've obviously seen the Hero Quest remake, and we've seen Warhammer Quest come back in many different versions in Silver Tower, Shadows over Hammerhall, even taking on a 40k aspect in Blackstone Fortress, and now Curse City. I think Space Crusade could be a really interesting remake, or indeed Space Hulk. They very much are the same sort of thing. Space Crusade is the earlier edition of it. I think this could be really fun, a really cool game to bring back. This is a great box game, much like Curse City. I think we could do with having these two box games of Space Hulk, Space Crusade alongside a Warhammer Quest for Age of Sigmar, having the two mainline games, having these easy access miniature box games to get into and to get to know the universe and play a sort of standalone game with, giving them proper expansions. This could be a really great way to explore the narrative and the world in a different style of game and get different people into the hobby. This would get board gamers into the hobby with this re-release. I really like it. I love Space Hulk. I really wish I could get the miniatures for Space Hulk again and run a Space Hulk campaign on the channel. It would be a ton of fun to get this all together. Number 7, Inquisitor. I think this could be a fantastic game to bring back. We've obviously seen character models come back, like Watch Captain Artemis come back into the game as well, that were first seen in Inquisitor, but for me, what Inquisitor was back in the day is it was a 54mm scale game, so it had much larger miniatures than we are used to, and it made them able to be much more highly detailed. At the time, this was much more role-playing central, generally made for an older audience, but I think we could do something really interesting with this. Make 54mm miniatures again, give some really super hyper detailed miniatures that would look absolutely amazing. Be a really fun, different game, give us something different to paint, and also sort of tie in with that narrative role-playing aspect and sort of give that bridge between the role-playing games they obviously sponsor by currently Cubicle 7, who I amazingly was one of the playtesters for the Age of Sigmar Soulbound game, which is really, really fun. You should go check that out. But it would also sort of just tie in that world and give that sort of option of a role-playing game and try and bring them into miniature wargaming would be a really interesting one as well. I think Inquisitor has an interesting space, not only in its miniature and the size of the scale of the game, but also in just like an aspect of like really heavy role-playing in that way the game plays as well. And number 8, Gorka Morka. Now, we did see a sort of recreation of this in the Speed Freaks box game that came out not too long ago, and perhaps we maybe are going to see a different take on this game in the version of the Necromunda Ash Waste. I'd be really interested to see if we can get some like war trucks and stuff like that. But Gorka Morka was really interesting. You built these trucks and you had to stick your models in the back, and if when moving your models fell out of the truck, that actually fell out in the game. There were some really fun and interesting rules in Gorka Morka. It was effectively roving warbands of orcs sort of moving around the deserts, all sort of trying to take scrap. It was a ton of fun. I really did love Gorka Morka. I thought it was a great, fun, interesting game with a really different sort of way to play. This was a great game to play campaign with a group of friends and have an absolute blast. I'd love to see this game come back. I'd love to see some interesting sort of customization and build options. This is what Gorka Morka did really well. It gave you the options to sort of build your own models and really make your own trucks look really cool. A really fun game. I'd love to see it come back. Could be really, really interesting in how it works in a comeback. Maybe we are going to see a Necromunda. Maybe we see a re-release of Speed Freaks. I don't know what we're going to see, but this could be one of the ones, I think, more than any of the ones we've mentioned in the video, that could be really, really interesting. With that said, that's our list of 8. Are there any games that we missed that you'd love to see come back? Obviously, mentioning that Warhammer Fantasy is coming back in Warhammer the Old World, and we know other ones are back already, but which one of these did you really want to see, or do you really want to see? Which ones don't you? Which other games do you want to? Especially like looking at box games. I know we only really looked at Lost Patrol, but there were a ton of box games that Games Workshop were released over the years. Any of those that you really enjoyed, let us know in the comments below. Love to hear from everyone and see what you'd like to see from Games Workshop as a re-release miniatures game. And if we can get a hold of the rules for any of these games, would you want to see us play any of these out-of-production games on the channel? Well, that's the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And leave a comment down below and let us know what you enjoyed about the video. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the video's description to our Discord server. And lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so either via Patreon or YouTube members, and both of those are linked again down in the video's description. As a special thanks to all our Patreon and YouTube members, I'd like to give a shout out to them all. So a special thank you to our Patreons, Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lowe, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Dynet226 and Derek. And a special shout out to our YouTube members, Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Vinny, Lockloric, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Shelf, Ariana Airwoods, and Sean Scott. Lastly, a special thanks, first of all, to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for our channel, and to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing Discord server background work for us. Thank you all for watching. Once again, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.